have a great resource for that, and I will talk about this. You know, I will not too much shamelessly promote it. It is just a resource, and it's actually based upon the fact that we got a lot of phone calls from people around peer mentoring, and they call from around the country because they found us on Google somewhere, and they said, well, you know, I want to start a peer mentoring program. Can you talk to me about 10 minutes how I run this in my college, or how I do this in a high school or in a middle school? And so one of the things we did a couple of years ago is that the best way we thought was to download the information that we have had over the years was actually to do an audio course. And so we created something called the 9 Key Components of Peer Mentoring. And but then, of course, you know, who wants to listen to 9 hours of a Belgian accent on an audio course? So people want to listen to Tony Robbins or things like that, but I'm not sure if they want to listen to in their car somewhere about peer mentoring. So actually, we had somebody transcribe everything, and so if you purchase it, it's cost only $47. So you get then the 9 CDs, and you can listen to it if you want to. And then we also have a PDF, which is over 200 pages, which has 2 parts. One hand, it has a transcript of these CDs, but on the other hand, also it has a summary of each of the different components. So we'll talk about it briefly. I see that at the moment are about 13 people, if I'm correct. So for the people who are new to this, so welcome. My name is Carlo. I am the co-founder and executive director of the YESS Institute, and we are here in Denver, Colorado. And this year we have been in business for 15 years, and we have facilitated of the last count about 45 year-long peer mentoring programs. And the knowledge that we have acquired pretty much comes from making every mistake. We made pretty much every mistake in the book when we started out in peer mentoring. The first program was actually done in 2003, and we made pretty much every mistake in the book. And we started off by doing high school kids being mentors to middle school kids, and did after-school programs. And so now the program has evolved, and I just wanted to talk to you briefly about, you know, kind of some of the research that we have built underneath this, because, as I said, our program is very much practice-based. But then we have built some research underneath this, research that we got, but also from surveys. Somebody did his doctorate about our program, so he did his dissertation that gave us some research as well. So, and we're also going to do a small video, so hopefully that's going to work. It's going to be a video about 2 minutes, and there's just some students talk about the YESS Institute and some of the value that they bring about the program. Okay, so so here's speaking June read. What does that mean, Holly?
I'm not too sure. It might be somebody who's hold on.
Okay, just to keep on going. So here's some information on me. So actually, my background is very different. I went in Belgium to law school, and I'm one of these people who went to law school but never practiced law, and it was really, you know, what really was really life-changing for me is that in 1992 and 1993, I had a long trip. That was long before I was here in America. I had a long trip on a motorbike through Central and South America, and what I would like to say is that it really gave me my compass for caring, because I always had a bleeding heart for everybody who was down and out and the underprivileged and so forth. Although Belgium, you know, there's still a lot of poverty in Belgium, although it's pretty much of a white bubble, Belgium. But but in South America, it really affected me. Was very much affected by kids, and that has really been kind of the root and the kind of the seed of starting of the YESS Institute in '99. And what I did before this actually is that I was a facilitator in emotional intelligence and worked a lot with corporations. And in Europe, or a lot of Brussels, there are a lot of expats, of people who are in the expat community, and who this American company was doing emotional intelligence trainings for them. So that's what I did. And so what we developed is peer mentoring, what we call inclusive peer accountability communities, where we develop communities inside of schools. And we'll talk about this in a second. So this is what YESS does. So this is our mission statements. So where we are trying to develop a pipeline of leaders inside of schools And of course, you have to think that peer mentors are really, are really teachers of color to a great extent. They are role models of color. It provides, in the schools that we work with here at the YESS Institute in Denver, Denver has a very Latino population, so we work in the highest poverty Latino schools in Denver. It's kind of on the west side here, and then we work north of Denver also in middle schools. And so of course, Denver public schools has the same problem as many public schools have, is that there's kind of this discrepancy between the background of the teachers and the background of the kids that are being taught. And so a lot of very white teachers, and of course the kids are all kids of color. And so we feel that what we're doing is by taking peer mentors inside that school and working with other kids. These are kids which come from the same communities and the same backgrounds and have overcome the same barriers. They're true role models from within that community. And so to a certain extent, I feel that these students are they are like teachers of color, and because they now give these younger students a role model and a leader, somebody they can look up to and somebody they can relate to, because this is somebody from their own community who has overcome very similar barriers and obstacles that student has to overcome as well. So that's why I think peer mentoring is a great way to develop this pipeline of leaders, and where the next civic leaders in the community are your peer mentors today, to a great extent. So can you help me to get the video going? I just wanted to show you the video. It's a 2-minute video which we made 2 years ago. We did the one of 2 years ago because that was one of the shortest videos that we have. Holly, could you help with that to get that going?
Yes. Yeah, let me, it looks like our video tab has escaped us, so let me share the file again. I think when you change presenters, it takes it off, but hopefully everybody can see the video now.
I see the shift, yeah, I can see that.
And I'll just go ahead and play it now.
How do I click?
I believe I click.
Okay.
YESS stands for Youth Empowerment Support Services, and we provide peer mentoring programs. So we match 9th and 10th graders with successful.
Sorry, Carla, do you hear 2 videos playing?
Excuse me?
Did you hear 2 videos playing or just 1?
Oh. No, I see the video is going. So.
Okay.
In a mentoring relationship, and deliver a social and emotional intelligence curriculum, as well as teaching study skills.
My experience with YESS has been amazing. I mean, it's a great chance for me to give back to the community and help out kids that are really in need of it. With our school, it needs a lot of help. When I became the mentor leader, I took it a lot more serious, and I realized the impact you can have on some of these students.
I wanted to just help out with as many people as I can, because I know growing up, like, in these times, you don't really have anyone, and it's hard to trust people, and I wanted to be there for someone. Like, I would want someone to be there for me. It taught me how to become a better leader, and it taught me how to help others when, even though I'm struggling.
The differences between, the peer mentoring that we have instead of, just an adult coming in, is that you build a relationship with somebody that's your own age. They know the struggles you're going through. They know, they go to the same high school as you. They know what teachers are, probably giving you a hard time because they've all experienced it. They're all experiencing it at the same time. So that's what's really good about us.
Okay, so I'll switch presenter mode back to you, Carlos.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hi. So this video, what we have been doing every year is that we try to make a video, try to find resources in the community to create a video of the programs of that year. This was in, I don't know if anybody of Denver is on, belongs to the attendees. I see only, at the moment I only see two people, somebody from New York and June Reed, but we try to find resources in the community. For instance, this year we actually were here in Denver, a part of a series of PBS. It's called Standing in the Gap, which is fascinating. You can Google that, Standing in the Gap by Rocky Mountain PBS. And they made a video, and we were a part of that, where they looked at 20 years after busing ended in Colorado, here in Denver, actually in Denver Public Schools. They were looking at the racial segregation within the public schools in Denver Public Schools here, and see that there's still a tremendous achievement gap between the white students and the students of color. The achievement gap is still 30 to 40% in Denver Public Schools between white students and the students of color, mainly Latino students. They are. That's the overall majority of Denver Public Schools are the Latino students. But they're looking at different neighborhoods and standing in the gap and trying to provide give some perspective, which is a great historic perspective, and to see what's happening on a national level. It's a great resource also to look at. These are 4 segments that they did around the different areas of Denver Public Schools. So that was one of the ways of how we try to have a video which we use for the students at our year-end graduation, but also as, of course, it's a great way to provide as a resource to funders. We use it actually at our annual breakfast as well, to show the impact of the program. So just to give you a quick overview of the program. So the model that we have developed actually is that we use peer mentoring as a form of school engagement and connecting students to school. We have a program at the moment, which we actually have 2 different models of programs. One model is a model where we have our programs are during the school day, and this is a credited class during the school day. And we have very high dosage. We have dosage up to 280 minutes per week in working with the students. And so it's mainly a Tier 2, Tier 3 intervention, and it's an intervention that is as one of the integrated strategies for the school to work with those students. And so it is the school who refers the students to us. So we have 2 models. We have it at a high school model and at a middle school model. In the middle school model, we have the 8th graders working with 6th graders. In a high school model, we have 9 and 10 graders, and they're being mentored by 11 and 12 graders. And so we work with it. What we have learned is that, what I learned earlier is that one of the biggest obstacles in a peer mentoring program is that was the logistics, because initially we would have programs where after-school programs where kids from a high school would go to another school of younger kids, and it was the transportation, the different school times, and so forth. It just somehow killed the program off. And at that time, we didn't have enough buy-in yet from the schools as yet, so that could have been a part of it. So if you have the buy-in from the schools and you can deal with the transportation, and can do it during the school day, that's better. So what we said is that if we want to really work with the students and have that intense intervention, these Tier 2, Tier 3 students, we want to work during the school day. And it has to be a credited class during the school day. And so what we're doing is that we're creating these communities inside the school where you have a YESS classroom, and in that classroom you have a YESS teacher, and that teacher works with the students. And these students that come in, the mentors and the mentees, they both get credits for it. For the mentors, it is an elective, a leadership elective that they take. They get five credits for this. And what you're doing by doing this is that you create this community inside the school for these disengaged students. So as I say here, it's a way where peers hold each other accountable. As I mentioned before, you're really developing a leadership pipeline. In some of these schools, we have somewhere between 20 and 40%, depending on years, of the mentees that are becoming mentors later on. The mentee looks up to the mentor and says, wow, one day I want to be a mentor and I want to help somebody like that. And then these mentees then, of course, they have to meet the parameters to become mentors in behavior, academics, and attendance. And they get themselves up to that level, and now they can become mentors. And you're creating this circle of how these students have been helped by their older peers, and now are giving back to the community. Yeah. So going on to the next. So one of the components, as I mentioned in the beginning, and not everybody was online at that time yet, is that just very briefly, we created a resource for people who just want to start a peer mentoring program. And we just did that because we had so many questions of people calling us and saying, how do you run a peer mentoring program? And so we created an audio course, which is called the 9 Key Components of Peer Mentoring. And these are the 9 key components that we dealt with. So it's an audio course, and what we then also did, as I mentioned in the beginning, is that, you know, not everybody wants to listen for hours to a Belgian accent, you know, so we also had a PDF, we had it transcribed in a PDF as well, and you can contact us, and, you know, we try to make it as affordable as possible. It's only $47 to do that. And so we're addressing every aspect of the kind of a peer mentoring, that a peer mentoring program goes through, and we're trying to provide the information that it's, you know, that can be done by different models. If you are, you know, in a faith-based community, in a church, for instance, you want to run a peer mentoring program or an after-school program, or you are somebody within a school who wants to do that, or on a college level, there's kind of the same laws that apply for peer mentoring. And so we're trying to highlight these different laws that apply for peer mentoring. And so just to give you a couple of examples, we talk about, you know, the value of the peer mentor. You know, I think the power of the peer mentor is that the biggest obstacle of a mentoring relationship, to a great extent, and I must have taught over somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 people of training, of doing mentor training, with the focus on how do you build trust in that mentoring relationship, because as you know, without the trust, there's no mentoring relationship. Without trust, there is no learning. And so, and I think it's very powerful how the mentee looks at the mentor, and he or she can relate to that student, and that strengthens that relationship between the mentor and the mentee. So the peer mentor is that, you know, she has the ability to build a very strong relationship because of the age. You know, there's not so much age difference. You know, they can relate to each other, especially in some of the models that we are working with when we're doing the models in the same school. Even if you have peer mentors, in the very first program that we ever did, we had suburban white kids from suburban Denver, and they were peer mentors to inner city, mainly black kids here in Denver. And as I said in the beginning, and some people might not have heard it, is that the way we learned it is practice-based, or I call it making every mistake in the book and learning from them and making a program better like this, you know, trial and error. And we learned, what we saw there was actually fascinating in this very first program, was that how much these students had in common, just because of the age, just because they're so similar in age, and they were dealing with the same coming of age issues. And some of them were doing that in a $2 million house, alone at home in the suburbs, and the other ones were doing it in the alley behind their home. And so, but somehow they were dealing with the same issues of coming of age. Yeah, the peer mentor, of course, is a tremendous role model, and shows that you can be a role model, a positive role model within the community. And many of these students, the mentees, don't have that role model. They have not seen a role model like that. You know. They have to be responsible, and of course, the component, one of the main components is that it's relevant. That you make the meetings, the curriculum, the content that you pour into this. You know, because peer mentoring is somehow, it is a framework. It's almost like you build a house, and it's like the framework around it. And then what concrete do you pour into this framework? And so you can pour anything into that. You know, what we do at the YESS Institute, we pour in things like academic study skills, post-secondary readiness, and then we have a huge social emotional curriculum that we kind of pour into that relationship, into that framework. You know, here's some information on training and retention. You know, I think and I'm just highlighting this because this is some of the things that we are addressing in this PDF that we put together. You know, and that's one of the reasons I put this slide in there, because that's one of the biggest questions that I have, or the most common questions that I have. How do you retain these mentors? You know, how do you retain your mentors, and how do you retain the mentees? You know, and I think, you know, mentors. The golden rule with the mentors, I feel, is that the less mature your mentor, the more structure and guidance there is required. And so I think that the most successful peer mentoring programs are where there is that structure and there is a lot of guidance. If you have a peer mentoring program inside the same classroom, the advantages that you have of that is that, you know, the adult inside the room can observe the relationships that are happening, and then can coach the mentor in how to improve those relationships. If you have a mentoring program where you say, well, I want you to meet, you know, once a week or twice a week in school or wherever you are meeting, I think that can work. However, there still has to be a lot of support and follow-up by the adult to do this. I don't think you can treat your peer mentor in the same way that you're dealing with adults. And even adults need a lot of support and training to be very successful mentors as well. So just in the part of time, since the time is running really fast, and I wanted to show you some of the research, I wanted to move on. So here's some research that we came up with. For instance, here in Denver, north of Denver is a place called Adams County, and in Adams County we have a collaboration with Adams County Youth Initiative, and so they survey every year in over 5 school districts 20,000 students, and so they brought in a question with regarding to peer support, if they feel accepted or not and supported by a peer inside the school. And so this research is pretty valid and reliable, the fact that we have 20,000 students filling this out anonymously. And so, as you can see, as you can read, the difference between peer support and no peer support inside the building, inside the schools, you know, the risk that the risk level that they belong to a gang goes up ×5, carried to happen almost ×4, not important to graduate, ×5, you know, using marijuana for the people not in Colorado, who's not in Colorado, you know that Colorado, marijuana is legal here in Colorado. You have to be 21 though, but however, it has become very easy for students to get their hands on marijuana, you know, because many of them have parents at home with the marijuana just laying around. So it is in Colorado, there's a huge movement in how we can do the substance abuse prevention, and there's a lot of dollars going to youth agencies and reaching out to students. So students are very educated around the use of drugs. So so you can see there is this survey is showing the impact of having that peer support inside the school, you know, based upon 20,000 secondary school students. Here's the research with regarding to the peer support and school culture, and it shows that the correlation between, you know, the vertical one, which shows the percentage of reporting of feeling safe inside the school to the percentage of reporting that they have peer acceptance. You know, so the more peer acceptance that they have, the more the safer they feel inside their school, which will affect your school culture. This was looked at, as you see here. This is based upon 31 middle schools, 12,000 students who filled that out. It also, peer support also predicted the low percentage of students reporting that they were in a physical fight, a greater agreement to tell students about bullying, and also about skipping schools. Because the students, one of the reasons why we do a program is that because we feel that that peer support and to have that relationship and that connection in the school, not to an adult only, but also to a peer, that will enhance that bond that the student has with the bond that the student has with the school. And we show some research and some other slides. Also, we will I will hope that I can end around 11:45 or maybe a little bit earlier. And so then if people have questions, that you will be given some time in the end to ask questions, which I can answer as well as I can, or you know, if you have questions we have no time for, then I'm very happy to speak to people offline after the webinar, or you know, we can email or speak on the phone as well. Then the next slide is more research here regarding to school engagement and long-term success. You know, a lot of these things, of course, are complete common sense. You know, the fact the student math proficiencies by days absence. Of course, that the math proficiency, once there's over 10% of being absent of fluency, that there's only 13% of those students are proficient in math, while the students who are less than 2.5% absent, they have a 48% of proficiency. Again, these school districts are, Adams County is somewhat changing in its demographics. However, it's becoming actually, what's happening because of the gentrification in Denver is that many of the more impoverished families are being pushed out in Denver. Denver is one of the hottest cities to move to. Apparently 100,000 people moved to Metro Denver, I believe, or to Colorado, I'm not sure, in the last year. And which is a multifold of what has happened before, and the rents in Denver have become extremely expensive to what they were before. And so many of the poorer neighborhoods are completely being gentrified. And so where these families go north, which is Adams County. And so the demographic of these counties are changing around. They go north and they go east to Aurora as well. So some of these school districts are really struggling with kind of the migration of these families coming into the school districts. And so this data here is also looking at, this is actually looking at Adams 50, where the YESS Institute has a program at the moment, working also again with primarily, you know, 90% students of who are Latino, and they also are very high percentage of free and reduced lunch in those schools as well. Go to the next slide. So I mentioned that we had somebody who we worked with who did his dissertation in the field of education regarding with the YESS Institute. And one of the theories that we built underneath the program of why we believe the program works is actually something that every mother knows in the world, is that teenagers, adolescents, will take over the behaviors of the groups that they belong to. So, you know, if I have a group of friends with bad behaviors, then in order for me to belong to that group, I will take over these behaviors because I want the acceptance of that group. And I want to be respected by the group, so I have to do these behaviors. And so, so that's something that every mother knows. And so here in the primary socialization theory, talks about clusters, how students form these strong clusters, and how the norms within these clusters of everybody who belongs to these clusters, how these norms are being transmitted from one member of that cluster, of that group, to the other ones, and that will reinforce the attitudes and the behaviors of their members. So that's pretty much what gangs do. You know, gangs provide a sense of belonging, a sense of respect, a sense of love, a sense of respect, and so. However, in order to belong to that, there are certain norms that I have to live by, and certain behaviors that I have to display to belong to the gang, and have a certain level of loyalty. To a certain extent, what we do with our programs in peer mentoring, we do the same, but we just do it with pro-social peers, where we connect the students inside the school to a group of pro-social peers, and now they are displaying pro-social behaviors and are transmitting those pro-social norms to everybody who belongs to that group. Knowing also within adolescent development that peer influence becomes the #1 influence. And so we feel that somehow that is a tremendous asset wherever you go. If you have very pro-social peers, knowing that they are the #1 influence just by who they are and their age, why not take them, use them to the advantage of the school culture of the group or the outcomes that you're seeking, and have them transmit have them transfer the norms, have them have the influence on the other students, and have them provide the lessons instead of the adults who are providing the lessons and providing all the information within your program. Because you have there a natural barrier, because the adolescents will somewhat rebel against the adults, and so this is an extra barrier you have to overcome. So this is the primary socialization theory. Here it talks a little bit about the peer clusters. We talk a little bit about the peer clusters. So the pro-social peer clusters transfer pro-social norms to its members, as I just was talking about. Another component around peer mentoring and around creating safe environments inside schools can go back to brain development. Many of the students that we're working with, I'm sure that many of the students that you're working with also, is that our students from high-risk neighborhoods, and these students have grown up in violent neighborhoods or in violent homes, and so the child has grown up not to feel completely safe. And so from a brain development component, and I just want to give the caveat first, is that I do not pretend in any way or form to be a brain development expert whatsoever. I just know what we learned from Dr. Yager, who looked into our program and looked into our curriculum and providing us a framework in the world of brain development and what we are doing. So what we learned from him is that, you know, the students need to build a secure base, you know, through a physical and a psychological safety. And so what happens when all of us, when we do not feel safe, we go in fight, flight, or freeze. And so what is happening at that time is that we go to a very primal part of our brain, which is the brain stem, is at the bottom of our brain here. And so that's where all the energy in our brain is going there. And so what's happening is that if the student goes into a classroom or somewhere where they have to learn, and they are feeling like this, they're feeling unsafe. So all their energy goes here at the back of their brain. Now the school is asking them actually to use much higher functions of their brain. They're asking them to use much more of the executive functions of the brain, kind of the thinking brain, as Dr. Yager calls it. There's no energy left for the students. All the energy is here. It's like when you go in complete fear, it's very hard to think straight and to really be clear-headed, because the fear somehow drains you and takes the energy. So in order to reach much more of the higher functions of the brain, which is required for learning inside the school, students have to move out to the back of their brain. And so that's why it's so important to create these safe communities where students can come, not only where they feel safe and they feel valued, respected, and they feel supported, but also that you teach them the social emotional skills, that they learn how to regulate themselves so they can get out of that fear and access the higher parts of their brains. So there you have it, and that's actually something that many after-school programs are doing. If you go to a Boys and Girls Club or you go to other after-school clubs, you know, one is very important that you can create that safety and trust inside the school. In our programs, we do, you know, for the entire year, maybe the first month is all about team building and trust and having fun and getting to know the people, just to be able to somehow build that foundation that students feel safe inside the building, inside that classroom, inside that group, and feel that they have a sense of belonging to the other people. Because before we do that, there's no learning. Because if there's no safety and trust, there will be no attitude shift. They will not learn because they're too much absorbed in the distrust. And so, and without having the attitude change, if they don't even want to listen to you, there's definitely not going to be any behavioral changes for the positive. Here's some research on what, what I mentioned is what cross-age mentoring can achieve, the connectedness to school and peers. And you can read that, feeling of competency and self-efficacy, the grades and achievements, the way that we are looking at of how we are evaluating our programs are a couple of ways. Is that because we have the advantage of being inside a school, so we have access to academics, behavior, and also the attendance of the students. And next to that also, we have developed a tool, and a great resource of that is actually there. SAMHSA has a program called Service to Science. And Service to Science looks at innovative models and say, how can we make that an evidence-based model? And you can apply to that, and then they will provide you with the technical assistance, and especially around evaluation. And this helped us a lot to build a evaluative logic model and to create the necessary survey tools to look at, especially on a pre and post level, next to the objective measures that I just mentioned, to see the shift in the students that we are working with. Yeah. I think one of the biggest components of the mentors is that we're developing these civic leaders, and you're creating a pipeline for these students to become the leaders of tomorrow. Yeah. So around school culture, of course, the mentor and the mentee start, and it's really what we see it as within the school culture that you have this affects school culture to a great way, because these mentors, if you have a program within the school, we want them to be mentors beyond that. They carry with a lot of pride inside that building that they are mentors, that they are peer mentors, and so they will be advocates. They become educational advocates for the other students as well. And they go to a teacher, or they say to the teacher, well, I'm a YESS mentor, and I am mentor to so-and-so, and I know that she's completely failing in math, and so I'm here to get her homework, and I'll be sure that she gets caught up and does her homework for doing that. They know where, for the truant students, they know that between third and fourth period that they are escaping through the back door, one of the 50 doors in the school, and they go to the third period and say, instead of you going through that door, I'm going to bring you to your fourth grade class. Or they go stand by the door and say, I know you're always leaving through here. You can't go. I want you to go back to the class. And so now the school has an army of soldiers who are working for the positive school culture, and that affects, to a great extent, affects the school culture. And this is just because we're working inside a school. I believe that if you do that in other components also, they can be advocates in the community for your mentees, and teaching your mentees how to be leaders, not in a leader in the form that you have to be an adult for a leader, but that you also can be, as a younger person, as a teenager, as an adolescent, be a leader in the community as well. This relates also to the school-to-prison pipeline, because so many of our students, of course, are students of color, and we still hear on a daily basis of unjust discipline referrals, where I heard from one of our teachers the other day that we had one student in a school who got suspended for 4 days, just because they were talking inside the classroom. So there's the school-to-prison pipeline. I'm sure that all of you are very aware of that, of what's happening there. And I believe that this a model of some form of a peer mentoring model, of a peer leadership in the program inside the school, affects school culture. And I feel that it also provides an alternative with regarding to discipline inside your schools. And that's why it's so important to have a program which is completely integrated inside the school, and where you have the buy-in from the school itself, from the leadership of the school, but not only just the leadership of the school, but all the teachers know that you are a resource for them. Not that you are like one more thing they have to do. This is that you are a resource for them to support them in providing alternatives in how to deal with discipline inside the building. Good. Actually, we have some extra time, so if I have questions, I can answer questions. So here's some information about the YESS Institute. And as I said, you know, if people want to ask questions, if people have interest in the $47 PDF and audio course, we can send it to you. So I want to just open it up now to you as the International Mentoring Association. Holly asked me if we can leave enough time so people can have actually specific questions and see if I could be able to answer those. Holly?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I would like to say just really quickly, thank you again so much, Carlo, for being our monthly speaker. And I will, right now, a lot of people are muted because of background issues. So if you have a question, I believe you can raise your hand and it will show me that you'd like to speak, or if you're trying to speak, I can see that as well, and then I can unmute you. You can also ask questions through the chat window, and then we can answer them through that as well. So let's see.
Christina Luna put up her hand.
Hi, I really want to thank you, Carlo. This was some really great information that you provided. I, work at the university, so research is really important. I appreciate what you said about the brain research, and then also some of the dissertation information. I was trying to copy information as the slides were changing. Will we have copies of that, of the PowerPoint, or can you give us that information again? And I got your information because it's here, but just that other information that was very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina. Holly, can you? Is there a way we can send out the PowerPoint to everybody?
There might be a way to do that if we have a list of. I guess what you can do is send me through message your email, and we can do it that way. We also record our webinars, and so if you're a member of the IMA, you'll be able to get the entire recording of the webinar and all the information to that as well.
And also, as I said, you can email me. My email is there. Be sure to write YESS Institute with double S. YESS stands for Youth Empowerment Support Services. And so I'm very happy to send you a copy of the PowerPoint or any other information that you might be interested in.
Great. And then you can also send the information if we want to purchase the program, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Carlo. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so we have another, one through chat window from Heidi, and she said, hello, we are a mentoring program in Johnston, Pennsylvania, and have difficulty convincing the schools of the importance of allotting time for mentoring. We attempt to do what you do and have much less time. How did you convince the schools to become a credited course?
Okay, so that's Goodwill, I see. One of the ways, Goodwill, of course, being a national organization, Heidi, is that it's in many schools here as well. Kind of the area that Goodwill is working here inside the schools is a lot around job readiness and teaching students how to do interviews and so forth, and so building their resume and all that. So that is something that Goodwill does here. So it's great to see that Goodwill in other places in the country is also doing some other things. So how did we convince the school? So I started working, as I said, in Denver Public Schools, and I kind of came in through the back door because, I moved here from Belgium. I started this agency. The only thing I had going for me was my accent, and so people were like, oh, yeah, maybe I want to talk to this guy because he seems to have an interesting accent on the phone, and so somehow I was able to worm my way into the school through in the way of after-school programs. And so the way that we have been able to do an accredited class is that, and that might be a little bit of a European cynical view, is that I was focusing on where does the school, somebody in the background, background noise. So where does the school hurt the most? And one of the reasons we're working with Tier 3 kids is that because the school and the principal, who of course also is under a lot of pressure to perform and give the necessary credits, that school principal was very interested that we would be willing to take over the Tier 3 kids, the highest risk kids. So we've been working with students who have 3 or more apps, have behavioral problems, are truant to a certain extent, and we said, give us those kids, because they found that very few people were willing to work with those kids. And so we have now become a way that we become a resource for the school, because the school didn't really have an intervention to work with those kids. And we are the ones who kind of are helping the school out. And I always say, if I make the principal look good and the principal's doing well, we continue to be in business, because the hardest part is not just to convince one principal, but then you have, of course, there's a lot of shift from one principal to the other. And if you can continue in a school with a new principal, you're really doing a good job. And so I think that you have to create what is your added value really. You're not just a mentoring program that provides some social emotional skills, but really looking at the parameters on which the school is being judged, meaning academics, meaning behavior, attendance, and you really help the school around where they're hurting the most. And I feel that has helped us to get inside the building.
Okay, so we do have another question from June Reed. She said, how long is your training for mentors?
With regarding to training well, thank you. We kind of have gone over the years over different perspectives. Here are a couple of different things that we have done in the past. What we have done in the past is that we take our mentors and we come in the beginning of the year, let's say before the school year starts, and we take them like 2 half days and we provide them training. We give them all the training that they need to have before the program starts. We have done that. What I learned from that is that and what I also learned from working with a lot of adults, it's not just the students, it's also with a lot of adults, is that it's good to give front training. However, my experience of training people is that I would minimize the upfront training. The upfront training that you give is good that they understand truly what their roles are, and that they not only see what their roles are, but they understand the framework and the importance of their behavior and the impact that their behavior has in working with kids, and truly working role models where they have to walk the talk. Unfortunately, I feel people learn more if they have experienced pain. And what I mean by that is that, if they have come up to a certain obstacle, now you got their attention. Because now they're saying, oh my gosh, that mentee is not listening to me. I thought they would just listen to me. And he's just talking to his friend, and he's completely disregarding me. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get his attention. If I would have said that at the beginning and I would have given them training, well, if your mentee doesn't listen to you, you have to do this and this and this. At that time, they're thinking, oh yeah, of course, they're my age. Of course they're going to listen to me. And so somehow they're zooming out, and they're not. But once they've had that experience, now we have their attention. So what we have done with training is that somewhat give the foundational training in the beginning, that they know are very clear on expectations, and for the mentors and the framework that is what's expected, and then provide much more kind of your relational training and how to build trust and so forth as your program goes forward. If you have some form of a program where you have supervision over the students that you're mentoring, that are over the mentor matches, if you have supervision, that's very insightful, because now you can see which matches are working, which matches are not working. So we, in the beginning, shift matches around because we can see that match didn't really work, and you shift them in the beginning, you can shift them around. Plus, also, you can then, if you see something is not working, and let's say a mentor is not stepping up to their mentee, what we've seen is very efficient is actually to provide then individual coaching to that mentor, and to say to them what's happened. We see that this is happening, and then support the mentor with specifically to the issue that they're dealing with their mentee, which we've seen is much more efficient to provide that level of support to the mentors than giving like some big training and you're trying to hit all the different components of the training. So that's kind of the model that we have gone to by providing kind of a mixture, a hybrid of upfront training to them, combined with a lot of individual coaching, and then some of the training throughout the year, where as the mentoring relationship is progressing and is hitting different obstacles to be successful. Does that answer your question, or if not, then if you have an extra question, please let me know.
Okay, so I don't see any other raised hands. Do you, Carlo?
No. Anybody have any other questions? As I said in the beginning, I don't know if some people heard that, there's this great documentary by Rocky Mountain PBS called "Standing in the Gap," which is a wonderful resource to look at some of the research around the achievement gap. And of course, it focuses on Denver Public Schools, but I believe that so many of the challenges, of course, that Denver Public Schools is working with are very similar challenges that other school districts are working with as well. The unfortunate part of Denver Public Schools, I mean, the part is that Denver Public Schools, again, has been growing a lot, which is good, and the graduation rate has been going up. But on the other hand, also, is that it is, again, starting to become much more white, and somehow mainly the Latino population and mainly the Latino population is moving out of Denver because of the housing situation in Denver at this moment.
And Carlo, we have another question from Jen. They said, would you say the way to build trust is for the mentor to share weaknesses and pain? What are other ways?
You mean the ways to build trust?
Yes. Yeah.
I believe, well, there's a lot of the ways to build trust. If you build trust in a community, a big part of building trust is to create a sense of belonging to the community that they belong to. And so if you have a program where the mentor and the mentee meets just separately, it's different, of course, than when you meet in a group. If you meet the mentor and mentee just meeting separately, then it is very important in order to build trust that the mentor and the mentee, that the mentor, I believe one of the components is, as you mentioned, is that the mentor, the peer mentor shares some of the obstacles that he or she has had as well. Because the biggest obstacle in the relationship is how the mentee perceives the mentor. And the mentee has to see that she can relate to the mentor. She looks at the mentor and says, does this girl have the same obstacles that I have? And so, does this girl understand me? Does this girl know what I'm going through? And so I think it's important for the mentor to share some of the obstacles that he or she has had. And so, of course, depending on the age and so forth, it all has to be age appropriate, and what the mentor, of course, feels comfortable with as well. But I think so. I would agree with that. If you have a group, you're working inside a group, I believe that fun team-building activities is a great way to build trust. And we have an entire series of activities of what the mentors and mentees can do together, where they're sharing about their lives, where they're sharing about different things that they're doing. And we have all kinds of activities where they are, they're doing art together, and they're doing drawing together. They're talking about, things that they both can relate to. Because I think a lot of agencies, what I've seen in a lot of mentors and mentoring agents, mentoring groups, what they tend to do is to shift over the trust too fast. Think, okay, we ticked off the trust box, let's move on now. And I feel that, and that will bite you in the butt later on. If you have because without that trust, there's going to be no learning. And so if the mentee starts playing up later on, that means actually that foundation of trust maybe was not strong enough. And so I always say to adult mentors, and I was an adult mentor myself for 3.5 years when I just came from Belgium, is that if you teach if you teach your mentee anything, and you teach the mentee that he or she learns to trust an adult, that might be the greatest gift that you give to these kids. And maybe her grades are still down, and maybe some of the behaviors she has are still not the behavior you wish she would have. However, you have taught her that here can be an adult that she got to know, and that somebody is that she can trust. And so she has that experience of trust in her life. And I think that might be, you know, to a great extent, that is the core of mentoring. And any of the people that answer questions or people who want to ask some other questions, please send me an email or just let me know, and then I'm very happy to talk to some people afterwards as well, or email with people if you have specific questions.
Yeah, and just one, I think just real quick, June Reed said that she was wondering about the confidentiality of the relationship agreement.
In what aspect? Can I have a little bit more information about this?
There's nothing on her question otherwise, but maybe we'll give her a second to see if she.
So within, and I don't know if that's within the same group or within the classroom, or there is, of course, a big part, of course, is within the class. If you do it within a group, is it a classroom or is it another group, wherever they meet? Of course, it is very important to set up these norms in the beginning with regarding to confidentiality. But as you know, with regarding to confidentiality as well, is that there is a reporting requirement of the peer mentor to an adult inside the building when they find out that the student is being hurt or is hurting somebody else. And so that there are certain parameters that we have to follow, and that's being told ahead of time, that there is that confidentiality. However, some components, and the peer mentor will mention that also to the mentee, is that I have to speak to an adult about this. That they understand that because I need to report this because this will be required, because that's how we can help you. Is that, and then in June, if you feel that's not a sufficient answer, you want to go more into this, I'm very happy to talk to you later after this with you as well, if you have a specific situation in mind.
Okay, well, I think, let's see, it's almost noon, and I don't see any other questions, but again, you know, if anybody has any questions, you can either contact me. My name is Holly, or of course Carlo. And I think I'm about done. But if you have any other information, Carlo.
No, I just want to thank the International Mentoring Association, which we actually only joined recently, for this great opportunity. And if any of the agencies or online actually are going to the Mentoring Summit in DC, I will be there next week. So if you maybe want to meet or have coffee together, that's, you know, that would be fun to do actually. So and I just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity, Holly. Thank you. I'm very, you know, and thank you everybody for keeping your attention, because I know that webinars are hard to keep the attention.
Yeah, thank you. Oh wait, I did have one more reminder. For the IMA, of course, I mentioned it in the beginning, but now that we have a couple more attendees, we are holding our annual conference in April. So we extended the proposal submission deadline. So if you're interested in submitting a proposal to present at that conference, you can just contact me, and I believe that's it.
Do you know what the dates are, Holly? What are the exact dates?
The dates for April, let's see, it's the second week of April. Let me get my calendar really quickly.
Another hand by Stacy Grimm.
I know, I should have them memorized, but there's a lot of stuff to memorize. Okay, so it's April 12th through the 15th.
And that's in Albuquerque?
No, actually, it's going to be hosted in Auburn, Alabama this year.
Oh, awesome.
At Auburn University.
Auburn, Alabama. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Oh.
Oh wait, Stacy.
Yeah. We see there's another hand here for Stacy Grimm by the Buddy Program. I assume that's the Buddy Program in Aspen.
Yeah, and Stacy, to answer your question, it's the International Mentoring Association Conference. Our organization holds a conference every year, and it's a mentoring conference to share your own research and things like that. Or if you have a mentoring program but haven't done any research, you can just share information about your program, things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you, Carlo.
Thank you so much, Holly. Thank you for everybody who are online. I really appreciate it.
All right. And I'm going to close out. I'll quit recording, and then hopefully this will be up for members to see very soon. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.